At the beginning of the year 435, Attila officially adopted the title Emperor of the North, King of the Huns. These titles show that he sees himself as the founder and sovereign leader of a great federation of countries and autonomous peoples created under the aegis of the Huns. All Khans and vassal princes, the kings of the Germanic and Scythian peoples, and the chiefs of the other subjugated peoples, bear a solemn oath of fidelity. Orestes and Wunges, who ensured the relations with the Romans, can now be called ministers. They were also charged with the command of increasing numbers of troops, and of teaching the Huns and Germanic warriors the art of the sieges of the fortresses. During one of Orestes' visits to Patavium, his father said to him, "I remember that at the age of 10 you told Genride wanted to become a general like himself. Now your dream is realized, but I fear that you will one day be forced to fight against the Romans at the head of your Hun soldiers." This possibility sometimes disturbs the spirit of Orestes. But he wants to be reassuring because he has convincing arguments. "My father, you know very well that the relations between the Huns and Ravenna are excellent, and that there is a peace treaty with Constantinople. Yes, I know that the Eastern Empire avoided the war thanks to you. The more you are in a high grade, the more you work, the more you can do. But what will you do if one day Attila declares war on the Romans? Without really serious reasons he will never declare war on the Romans. I exclude an attack against the Western Empire. But the perfidy of Theodosius and his advisers may be fatal to the Eastern Empire." Visibly relieved, Tatul sighed. It is true that the Greeks of Constantinople are often perfidious. Most of them are hypocrites. They are light and their long servitude has made them experts in flattery. For me the Eastern Empire is really a foreign country and I do not care much about the affairs of Theodosius and his sisters. Orestes smiles. I hope that peace between the Huns and the Romans will last all my life. I dream, after having lived a laborious life, have a joyful and quiet retirement. Julia exclaims, like Lucullus. He has built a superb villa, Neapolitanum, on the Gulf of Bes. On his orders were executed superb works. Mountains pierced and channels created to introduce the water from the sea to the surroundings of his houses. Orestes is surprised. Why? To feed fish. Tatul specifies. This villa still exists and has now become an imperial villa. It has a seafront and a garden side. It is superb. Julia embraces Orestes and laughs. I hope that your dream, after having lived a laborious life, to make us live in a superb villa that will resemble that of Lucullus, will be realized one day. In 437, the emissaries of Constantinople violated Margam's agreement and undertook an attempt to corrupt the princes of the Hunnic people at Seri by distributing gold and precious gifts. In the eyes of Attila, the princes, who violate the terms of this agreement and the laws of Modin Khan, are twice guilty. During this time, disturbances began among the Caucasian Alans, who had been the vassals of the Huns for 60 years. All the Huns princes, involved in separate negotiations with the messengers of the government of Constantinople, are eliminated according to the severe laws of Modin Khan. Respect is made to avoid shedding blood for the most influential princes. One breaks their vertebra, chokes them by filling their throats with small pebbles, place them in sacks sewn and then thrown under the hoofs of the cavalry. The less powerful are decapitated. Even spectacular punishments are used as the crucifixion borrowed from the Romans. The Prince Kerdak remains alive since it was he who had warned Attila of the arrival of the Roman emissaries. Yet it is clear to Attila that the old prince did not perform his duties well. Aware of the danger threatening him, Cerdac took refuge with his most faithful in the mountains and responded to the invitation of Attila to come and see him eloquently. I am an ordinary person who can become blind. If he dares to stare at the sun, how can I then look at the face of the Grand Khan like the sun and placed on the throne by Tangra's will? Attila decides to stop the pursuit of the old prince. But to deprive him of the power, he proclaims his eldest son Edecon of Eastern Hunland, the Accompanying people, who could be severely punished by the greed of their leaders. We're content with such an outcome to such a delicate situation. The following year, Attila lost his brother Bleda, the second chief of the Hun Empire. Nobody replaces him. Thus the Emperor Attila, king of the Huns, strengthened his power further in order to consolidate the young empire, which was in fact a great federation of autonomous peoples. This is why he is especially kind to Arderic, the king of the Gepids, and Valamir, the king of the Ostrogoths, who perform their duties as vassals. Gradually the power of the Emperor Attila grew so strong that Orestes often saw, satisfied and admired, the crowd of the other kings and the leaders of the various peoples, accompanying him, watching his slightest movements, and as soon as he made a sign, each one of them, in silence and trembling, came to stand beside him, or executed the orders he had received. Attila, king of kings, alone decided over all and for all. In 439, a miracle confirms the divine origin of the power of Attila. A Hun shepherd of the steppe, to the east of the Don, sees limping one of his heifers. He examines the animal's feet and sees a wound. He follows with careful attention to the bloody trace and discovers with great surprise the point of a golden sword, which emerges perpendicularly from the earth. The ancient Scythian tribes had a god of war and victory, Ares, whom they represented by a sword. That is why, immediately, the find of this sword is interpreted in the steppes of the Black Sea as a divine message. The rumor of this discovery spread rapidly from the Danube to the Chinese border. From the Baltic Sea to the Caspian Sea, bonfires lit up among all the Hunnic tribes, who also regarded the golden sword as a message from Tangra. God gave the emperor the victory. He informed him that he was on his side for all his affairs, and urged him to go forward in the realization of his projects. Neighboring states and distant empires are informed by the ambassadors. Thus Edecon again visits China. The Roman emperors congratulate Attila on this extraordinary discovery. The chiefs and representatives of the peoples of the Northern Empire and of the neighboring regions come to the capital to admire the divine sword. Attila exposes this sword in a hall of her palace by putting beside it a superb Scythian scabbard in gold. The scabbard is adorned with magnificent bas-reliefs of struggling animals, griffins, lions, deer and horse. Several allied leaders swore fidelity to Attila and become vassals. Many neutral tribes become allies.